This is the Weltkrieg. We're playing the Eastern Front duration game. This is the situation at the end of August 1914. It's been quite a lot of activity. The Russian First Army has pushed fairly deep into East Prussia. The Germans are having to retreat to sort of get to a position where they can hold any sort of line. In the south against the Russian Second Army, there's been a lot of fighting in this area, but the Russians can't really make much progress because of all these forts. And the forts don't have a zone of control, but they act as a block on these hexes, so it's been easier for the Germans to hold a line against the Second Army than you would think, considering the shortage of units they've actually got. There's been a little bit of activity around Lodz, which has been captured by the Germans. The Russians are now moving a unit into the area, but there's no sort of HQs in this area. The Germans, so the Russians lost a cavalry unit here. They were surrounded. There's been several cavalry units surrounded because I've not been using my cavalry very effectively. I was using them like as deep advanced screens, which cavalry units can't really hold terrain like that. You can get round them and surround them, especially if you've got other cavalry units as well. The cavalry units are much better used holding the flanks of an army, just to make sure that units can't get round them. We have the centre area here where you got the Austrian First Army. Russians have been fighting quite heavily here, but decided to withdraw backwards after taking a lot of losses there. The Austrians are taking a lot of losses in that area as well. There's sort of a little front here, but it's not very well held, and there's a lot of cavalry units holding flanking positions on the armies. The Russian army here is moved forward slowly, so that but the situation isn't particularly fluid. The main problems the Austrians have had is in where the Kovso HQ is. Russians have pushed quite deep into Galicia there, and if they can get more units in that place, that's where they're going to be making the progress. If we look at fighting in Serbia, there's been a lot of fighting around this area, and the Austrians have penetrated into the areas of Serbia which are relatively open terrain. Not really made any progress recently. The Serbians have been counter-attacking quite heavily in the area, and the Austrians have taken a lot of casualties. If we look at Montenegro, the Montenegrins have had to pull back slightly. They've been pushed back slowly by the Austrians. One thing I am using the alternate combat table, which you can get off Consim World for when I'm fighting in the Balkan Mountains, because it makes it a lot more realistic that you're more likely to get these 1R results where you either take one if you're standing, or if you retreat you don't take a loss. Makes the casualty rates in really difficult terrain with low combat numbers, combat strengths, more realistic. In terms of using up supplies, everybody's used up a lot of supply. But the German 8th hasn't really used that much. Well, it's moved at 25 points, but it's still got 75 points worth of strength there. The Germans not really been in a position to attack more than local counter-attacks where the Russian Second Army is. Nobody hears it, but the Serbian are a bit low on supply because, as I say, they have done quite a lot of heavy counter-attacking, which has reduced their overall supply. So they're not really going to be in much of a situation to conduct many more attacks. One advantage they do have is that, like the Montenegrins and the Serbians, it doesn't cost supply to defend, which is a great bonus to them. Look at the demoralisation tracks. We're looking at Germany with a demoralisation of 29, Austria at 43, and Russia at 57. So a long way off any serious deterioration in combat effectiveness for any of the nations. The reason there haven't been that many casualties so far is because both sides weren't fully mobilised, apart from Serbia. The Serbian front, they weren't fully mobilised. It took the Austrians about 4 turns to fully mobilise, and the Russians 3 turns, the Germans 3 turns to fully mobilise. And then once they've mobilised, you've got to get them in contact with the enemy army. So that means a lot of the opening moves have been more trying to get into close fighting range rather than actually slugging it out with each other. And that's it.